Righto, welcome to the Antisocial Podcast. This is episode 178, and it's with Luis J. Gomez. But before we kick into it, I have a funny feeling that a few of you have never heard of my voice before. So, if we are newly acquainted, how you doing? My name is Andy Dowling, and in addition to hosting this podcast, I also play bass in the Australian metal band Lord. So if you love a bit of heavy metal, then you can go over to lord.net.au and trust me, we're not a Christian metal band, so don't worry about that. But you can go to lord.net.au if you love some heavy metal riffs and some guitar solos and a lot of sing-along choruses and all sorts of shit. Go over there, check it out. Lots of video clips, music, our back catalogue, streaming music, everything. The socials are all there. Go and have a sticky beak. Let me know what you think. We've got a brand new single out called United. Welcome back. It's the first single off our brand new album Fallen Idols, which is coming out soon. You can go to lord.net.au/united. Plug. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for this new album. It's coming out soon. More details to come, but go and check out the single. It is heavy metal. So listen to it, pass it around. A bit of people power goes a long way. So thank you so much to everybody that's been supporting us and sharing that song around, whether it be on Spotify or YouTube or Facebook or whatever. It just means a lot. Apple Music, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Go and check it out. So go and do that. lord.net.au/united. Also, I've got another podcast called the Self-Starter Podcast, which is all about small business, self-employment and freelancing. A little bit more clinical in nature, but if you're interested in starting your own business or getting a bit of a side hustle happening, a bit of extra coin in your pocket, go and check that out. We are about to launch season 2 of the podcast in June. So go over to selfstarter.com.au or search for Self-Starter in your podcast player, and you should be able to listen to all of season 1 at the moment. Lots of stuff there, and really happy with all the support you guys have been giving for me for that one. Thank you so much. This week's shout out every week, I thank some legend that supports me in the podcast. It can be a range of different ways. It could be simple shit like, a bit of social media love or a guest recommendation, or it could be even buying some merchandise from the online store over at andysocial.net or shouting me a beer via the PayPal button over on my website as well. Whatever it is, small or big, it helps the podcast. It keeps this whole thing going and just means a lot to me. So thank you everybody who does a little 1% extras. But this week's shout out is for Erin Guthrie. Erin is the visa extraordinaire, the visa expert for Soundworks Touring. And Erin's also got her own business that she started up called Tour Right Visa Services. And if you're an artist from overseas, and I know I've got a few international musos that tune into the podcast, and you're looking to tour, it doesn't even have to be musicians, actually. It could be like comedians, or I'm just thinking of this week's guest. It could be anybody that's looking to come into the country and work professionally, especially in the entertainment world. Erin could be your person. So go to facebook.com/Tour Right Visa Services. And if you're an Australian promoter who's looking to bring over international acts, Erin might be a great resource for you as well. So once again, facebook.com/Tour Right Visa Services, and Erin does a lot of great work through Soundworks Touring. Now, the reason why Erin's getting a shout out is that she sent me a very, very nice message, just letting me know that she's listening to the podcast and really enjoying it, etc. And I was actually quite surprised because I've known of Erin for quite some time, quite a few years, just from the association with Soundworks, but I'd never met her that I can recall. I mean, I have drunk a lot of alcohol over the years, but that I can recall. And I've never really had an interaction with Erin directly. And I was just really stoked and surprised that Erin was making the effort to check out the podcast and obviously listen and enjoying it as well. So it means a hell of a lot. So thank you, Erin. When you hear this, shoot me a message and I'm going to find some crap lying around the house to send out to you, because we all like getting something in the mail. And trust me, it won't be literal crap. It'll just be some stuff, some silly shit. So anyway, leave it with me. Thank you so much, Erin. And thank you to everybody that continues to support me and the podcast. Now, speaking of support, I've been plugging this stuff a little bit more. I'm getting my little piece of paper here. People that are supporting me through the Lord online store, the Antisocial online store, my Discogs and eBay stores. Fucking mind blank there, geez. You can go to andysocial.net/buy stuff. There is a whole heap of different stores that are set up that I have either selling merchandise and apparel that's linked to the podcast or the band, or I've got my own personal stuff that I've been hocking off over the years. And eBay store in particular has an eclectic mix of random shit that Jess and I own, and you can go and have a sticky beak over there. And also the Discogs store has about 1,500 items from my music collection: vinyl, CDs, cassettes, DVDs, all stuff ranging from metal to rock to pop to jazz, blues. Everything is in there. You can go and check that out as well. And I'm always adding extra shit into the orders as well. So if you do order from especially eBay or Discogs and you just leave a message just to say that you heard me crap on this podcast about it, then I'll add some extra goodies in there for you as well. But go over to andysocial.net/buy stuff. All the links are in there. I'm sure that if you went to Discogs and eBay and just searched Andy Dowling, you should be able to find my store as well. But andysocial.net/buy stuff is the best place to go. And a few quick little shout outs for people that buy stuff from me, buy shit from me. They include Paul from Wheat Sheaf in Victoria. Never heard of that place. Thomas from Imlin in Sweden. Chris from Boulder in WA. Dennis from Stur in Germany. Probably didn't pronounce that right. James from Westmount, Illinois in the US. Anthony from Coburg in Victoria. And I'll leave the rest for later. But thanks so much, folks. I've got a long list here. I could have just kept going and just lost track of time. Thank you so much, folks. Really appreciate it. And once again, andysocial.net/buy stuff. Cheers, folks. Okay, episode 178 is with Luis J. Gomez. And before we kick into it, a little bit of context, a bit of background. So this episode was recorded in New York at the GaS Digital Studios. And for anyone that's not familiar with GaS Digital, they are a podcast network that has a whole bunch of great shows under their umbrella, hosted by a number of famous comedians and musicians, and just some really, really great stuff. Shows that I've been a fan of for quite some time, such as Legion of Skanks, the SDR Show, Believe You Me, the Real Ass Podcast. Ass. I can never say ass probably because I'm an Aussie. I want to say ass, but it's spelled differently. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. The Justice Show, I Want to Talk, Irish Goodbye. There's heaps. There's heaps of shows under the GaS Digital umbrella. So you can go over to gasdigitalnetwork.com and go and check all that out. You can become a subscriber and get a whole bunch of exclusive content, but it's also on the usual podcast platforms as well. So you can go and have a steady big over there. Lewis is a co-owner of GaS Digital, so we get into a little bit of GaS Digital in this chat. But I've got to say straight up, I was fucking nervous, and I sound like a complete dork at times in this chat. And the reason being is that I was in New York, I was in this fantastic podcast studio, like really professional. I was just in awe of this place. They've done such a great job. And also, Lewis was the first person that I've ever recorded on a podcast outside of Australia. So I've had international guests on the podcast in the past, but it's always been over WhatsApp or Skype or like phone call or whatever. But this is the first time I've actually pulled my finger out of my ass and got a podcast happening outside of the country. I always take my stuff with me, but I usually just get too drunk and lose focus and blah, blah, blah. So I've actually made it happen. So I've got a whole bunch of episodes. You heard one last week with Michael Sheldrick, but Lewis was the first recording, the first one I did. And so as a result, I was overthinking everything. I was fucking nervous and just going into the studio and just in awe. It was just great. But it was a really fun chat. Lewis is awesome. I'm a real big fan of what he does. I'm a fan of his comedy. I've been listening to Legion of Skanks for a bit now. And he's got speaking of comedy, he's got a brand new special out called Luis J. Gomez Presents Luis J. Gomez. And you can go to Luis J. Gomez Presents luisjgomez.com. Fuck, what a URL. I'll put it in the show notes, guys. Where you can go and grab his brand new special. I believe it's his first ever special as well. So make sure you go and support him. You can get it from all the usual places, iTunes, Apple TV, Google Plus, Google Play, or whatever. Google Plus? No, Google Plus is gone. Google Play, Amazon Music and Video, gasdigitalnetwork.com, all those places. And I'll put the links in the show notes, etc. So you can go and check all that out. But yeah, I'm nervous. This chat goes from 0 to 100 almost instantly, and so much so that after the fact, and I was listening back to the chat, I was tempted to edit the start of this, but then I realized that I was completely contradicting everything that we spoke about in this episode and what Lewis's comedy is all about. So I've left everything in there. So don't at me. Brace yourselves. If you know Lewis's comedy, you're a fan already, then there's no surprises here. But if you've never heard of Lewis before and you're going to give this a shot for the first time, just bear with us, and take it with a grain of salt. It's fun stuff. Lewis's comedy is a lot of fun, and just don't at me, all right? Okay, cool. So anyway, enough of that. gasdigitalnetwork.com, Luis J. Gomez Presents Luis J. Gomez, and that.com, and all the rest is in the show notes. But enough crapping on from me. Please enjoy this awesome episode with Luis J. Gomez. I was going to say in hindsight, if there's anything you want cut out, but then I realised who I'm speaking to, so it probably doesn't really matter.
Doesn't
at all.
matter. Yeah. I highly doubt I'll say anything that's going to be so bad. I'm like, you know what, Andy? That's got to come out.
I kind of hope so, because it'd be pretty impressive.
You know what? Fuck all trans people. That's how we're going to open up the podcast saying it.
Let's set the tone.
Just, you know what? They're an abomination. I don't even call them people, to be honest. All right, how we start? Are we all right? Are we rolling? Cool.
Yeah. I got a little Facebook meme thing. You know, you can get those filters on your photos, and it says, I support whatever rights they are. There was one that said today, I support transit rights, and there was a picture of a transit van.
That's funny.
And I thought I could probably use that.
Yeah.
Okay,
and by the way, I support all people's rights. I really do. There's not anybody that's more supportive of anybody's rights to do whatever the fuck they want to do with their body. I just like to say fucked up shit, and I want to maintain that right to say fucked up shit. You live in Australia. It's a different world, right? Do they? Because everything that I see online about Australian comedy is super, super like SJW. There's a message. They seem to really be pounding the pavement hard, but that's fine.
And it depends on. I'm sure it's the same in the States, depending on where you are in the country. So in Victoria, Melbourne, they've got a big comedy scene down there, but that's real sort of social justice warrior sort of culture down there.
Right.
They're very sort of very liberal in nature, and so you see that in every aspect of culture down there. So naturally, their comedy scene sort of reflects that as well. But
I guess it's the big cities, New York, LA. It's sort of the same thing. New York and LA are much harder to get away with doing the type of comedy that I do, or that the guys that I hang with really do. And it works, but it's definitely, you see it more and more. You see people. You think New York's such like a badass city, but everyone is very like, just it's sort of, that's a very conscious thing that's on everybody's minds regularly. And I think because everybody does everything at a pretty high level here. If you're a librarian in New York City, you have this sense of pride, like, I'm a librarian at the best library in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I almost feel like everybody is sort of at like that cultural forefront, and they, which is fine. I'm not hating on that. I just come from, I'm very selfish. I only care about things that affect me and my family directly. So the reality of it all is like, more power to you if you want to go out there and protest and do what you got to do. Just don't tell me not to say certain words.
Just don't be a dick about it. It's like one thing that I've noticed, the people who do really well in Australia that are able to, I hate the word edgy, but have got a bit of an edge to whatever they're doing, it's all intention. If your intention's good, then you can say whatever the fuck you want. Right. If you're intentionally an asshole, then you can be, a social justice warrior and be an asshole, and it doesn't matter. Everyone's sort of,
I don't know. I think asshole's sort of subjective, right? And I think that it's also like, it depends if it's a net positive, right? So let's say this quote unquote, forget it being a social justice warrior, right? Let's just say it's somebody that goes into Africa and saves babies, right? And cleans the water and drinking wells, and but they're a dick.
Yeah.
It's a net positive. They're saving African babies. So I don't really care how much of a dick they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't really care if somebody's a dick. I'm very selfish, because unless it's sort of, bleeding into the areas that I really give a shit about, then it doesn't really affect me. Like, I don't really talk about politics. I don't think about politics. I don't believe that I can affect the political climate in any way, so I choose to ignore it, and I think I'm in a happier place. It's this sort of fake thing that doesn't really matter, or that we can't really change, or isn't really affecting us the way that we think is affecting us, and people spend so much energy putting their thought and passion there, where I'm like, dude, just put that passion elsewhere. Yep. Put that passion into literally anything else. Anything else, and you could actually probably, best case scenario, make a living off of it. You could turn this into your fucking dream. You can go down a certain path where you're like, this is what you do for a living. But I just feel like there's a lot of wasted energy, and most people waste their energy. Most people are wasting a lot of energy. And a few years ago, I was like, it was really during that election, during the Trump election, I was like, oh, there's so much wasted energy here. And then I was already doing so many podcasts and talking so much, and it was bleeding into my shows so much. We were doing Legion of Skanks, which is a the most offensive podcast on earth. Yeah. We're having these 20-minute long discussions about politics. And I was like, what is going on here? What the fuck is happening? This isn't who we are.
This is a train wreck we don't want.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just starting to say these things and I'm getting myself like down a path where I'm like, what am I even saying right now? Yeah. And I chose it was during the election that I said, I'm only going to talk about things that I care about and know. Because if I don't know about it and I don't care about it, it's going to come through. That's the thing. People, even if they don't even, podcast listeners and podcast fans, they're very in tune to your energy, and people don't realize it, but you're in their earbuds. You're with them every day on a subway ride or their ride to work or whatever it is, or in the gym when they're fucking sweating. And there's a weird thing where they're very connected to the podcaster, and if you're faking it, they can really hear it.
Big time. I mean, I've noticed that where I meet up with people I've never met before in person, but they've listened to the podcast and they start sort of cracking like a personal joke or like an in-joke, and your initial sort of reaction is like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh no, they've been listening to me crap on for the last 3+ years.
Of course, and they know everything about you. Yeah.
They probably know me better than myself. They're catching all my stupid little cliques and little words and things that I do that I'm completely oblivious to.
Of course.
But they know everything.
Well, there's certain times when I don't really think about what I'm going to say before I'm going to say it. I've been trying to be better about that. I've been trying to be more measured with my words and thoughts, because there's a shift right now with, just the way everything is being documented, everything and you sort of have to go like, all right, well, at this point, I'm getting more mature. I'm 36 years old. I have a child. It's just a different time. I don't regret anything that I said or any jokes that I've made. I don't regret all the times that I failed making bad jokes and they've bombed because I didn't think about what I was going to say first. That's very much a part of the process. But, I can slow down a little bit and think a little bit sometimes. And I think sometimes it's better to do that. But, for me, I've always been sort of from the hip. And I always thought the best comedy, was if you don't really think about it and it's reactionary. If you listen to a podcast and you have a couple guys that are sitting in a room and they're talking shit back and forth, if they're not really overthinking what they're saying, you sort of get these genuine reactions and you get these moments of and then that is sort of like addictive, and then they're laughing with each other and then you're listening and you're laughing and you're like, holy shit, there's this real genuine moment. And a lot of it comes from not thinking too much and taking some chances and saying, well, fuck it, let's dance right now and see where we can go with this. And we live in a society now, especially with when it comes down to the entertainment industry, you're sort of taking that genuine improv out of it because people are so afraid of what they're going to get caught saying or maybe misspeaking. Misspeaking is a real thing. You could just say something you don't really mean sometimes. You'd be like, all right, well, fuck it. Who cares? Let's move on. Who gives a shit? If there was if I broadcast for 10 hours a week, anybody, I'll challenge this to anybody in the world. If you put a microphone on anybody for 10 hours a week, you can find some fucked up, they're going to say some fucked up shit. They're not going to be able to avoid it. It's going to be impossible for them to avoid it. Now, I lean into it and I want to say fucked up shit, but you're going to tell me that you wouldn't misspeak 10 hours a week if you're doing this? There's going to be a few times where you say something you don't necessarily mean.
Everyone gets opinionated.
Yeah, or you make a joke that that falls flat or whatever it is. It's, it's a lot. So,
I mean, I've noticed that when I started, I'm a musician, so background sort of music and just getting on stage and playing and whatever. And then this whole podcast thing started to kick off and I thought, oh, this would be a good idea, just something different and sort of tickle another itch that I've got. And I just found myself just talking shit, and I became really self-conscious to begin with because I thought, no one's going to listen to this. I've got nothing good to say whatsoever, but I'm just talking shit, but I enjoyed doing it. And then after a while, you just realize that it just doesn't matter. And it's not even, I mean, you're meant to have a bit of a focus and a bit of direction, I guess, overall, but I sort of just enjoyed doing it, that eventually those moments, those genuine moments sort of click through and cut through the noise and suddenly go, oh, wow. And that sort of reminds you why people love podcasting so much.
Yeah.
It's just, but it's a really hard thing to do because you do overthink it because you think, oh, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have, hesitated a little bit or paused a little bit before I said that next line.
Yeah.
But then you realize that no one gives a fuck. No one cares enough, or if people are, especially because it's not the radio, so people aren't just dialing in and tuning in to each station. They're actually intentionally picking your station or your show?
Yeah, that's actually another really good point. I think that's maybe why podcasts haven't really been under as much fire, and they haven't been getting as much heat as other mediums, because people say crazy shit on podcasts. They have forever, and it's all just out there. But that's a good point. I think maybe because it is, there is an active way to listen to this. You're not happening upon it. It's not a station that's just randomly in your cab or in your Uber one day. Yeah. So there's a different type of, I don't know. It's a different type of thing. You're right. I agree.
Yeah, I've certainly had people on in the past where if I haven't said something fucking ridiculous, then the guest has, and I put it out there, release the episode, and I think, oh, this is going to be the one where it's going to trigger somebody. It's going to set somebody off, and then I'm going to have to defend myself or ignore it or make those decisions of how I'm going to manage it, and just fucking tumbleweeds. No one gives a shit.
But it's also a net positive as well, right? All right, so Legion of Skanks, we do a show where we have a pretty big following, right? We have a couple 100,000 people that listen to the show, and it's got a pretty dedicated fan base. We have a comedy festival we do every year based off of sort of that world and that fan base. And now I look at what we do. We've had certain shows where we make fun of people. Like there was that newscaster from California who just died.
Oh yeah.
And, I guess he was meeting up with gay dudes from Grindr and taking drugs and fucking them in hotels. And we're making jokes about him. Now he's got a 9-year-old daughter. He's got a little 9-year-old daughter out there. He's got a wife. He's got a family. And this is fucked up to say almost, but this is the way that I can kind of justify everything. Right?
I'm waiting.
We make these jokes, and if his 9-year-old daughter heard it, her feelings would probably be hurt. The wife would probably be like, that's fucked up. How could they make these jokes about this guy that just died? Yeah. But there's 200,000 people that are really enjoying it, that are really having a good time. And in my opinion, that's a net positive. We are doing way more good for the world than we are doing bad for a few people. If let's say that 9-year-old girl wrote us a letter and said, this really hurt, I listened to this and this really hurt me. Number one, I'm like, all right, you should be listening to the podcast, you idiot. Like, where's your mom? Like, your mom needs...
That's some bad parenting.
Yeah, your parents need to be around, okay? Your father, he's not coming back, but your mom, she should be there. But I would apologize to her. I would say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. That wasn't the intent. The intent was, it was a public news story that's very big and very famous, and we were making fun of the content. If you could separate yourself from that, most anybody, if it wasn't your personal story, would laugh at what we do in those situations. And it happens time and time again in a comedy club where you'll be making jokes about this, that, the other, and then you make some joke about some subject. You say something about cancer, and then some girl stands up and she's like, my mom just died of cancer. You're like, all right, bitch, well, I just made an AIDS joke. That guy's uncle just died of AIDS. He didn't say shit. He's just laughing because he gets it, And I think that is sort of like... That's sort of like the culture that we live in. I don't know if it's the same in Australia. Probably is, but it's very much like, and I said it before, it's like whatever affects me, I get it. Because if something bleeds into my world, then I'll start to give a fuck, and then I'll talk about it or address it or whatever it is. Now, I'm not going to impede on the rights of other people. If it bleeds into my world. Yeah. That's the difference. I'm not going to, when you say being an asshole, maybe essentially that's what you're saying. Because it's not just being an asshole, it's when you start to infringe on the rights of others. And I think that the right to express yourself, especially in an artistic standpoint, is a really, really important thing that we have to do. Yeah. I think it's, you see, forget comedy, but anything, music, any sort of arts, movies, I think we need to be able to express ourselves and to express different areas of life and to be able to poke fun at or shine a light on different areas of life. And everything can't be nice, and not everybody's feelings are going to be protected. But I think it's really, really important.
Do you find that in these larger cities, especially in New York, where you've got a lot of tourists that are dropping by, because comedy is like one of those things where you're going to bring in a lot of people from all over the world, and it's already a tourist city as it is.
Right.
Do you find that those jokes that are a little bit maybe harder to swallow for some people in the audience, that you get more of a reaction from potentially those drop-ins, those tourists that come in that don't get the joke?
No, because I don't think it's people that are tourists that have the issue. I think it's these, New York elitists, LA elitists, people that, you know, that they want to be, you know, they want to be at the forefront of whatever thing that they're in.
So it's like this virtue signaling.
Yeah. And they see that is, there's currency, there's social currency, whether it's online or in real life, by sort of having that
sweet tweet.
Yeah.
Call someone out.
Yeah. So I think that when you go to the other areas of the country, you know, I just did a tour for the special I just recorded. Louis J. Gomez presents Louis J. Gomez, available everywhere April 1st.
Plug.
Hell yeah.
Throw it in.
You know, and I just did a tour, and, you know, we did all these blue collar cities, and that's the best fucking place to go.
Yeah.
These people have real problems. That was I made that point about Hari Kondabolu, who's I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an Indian comic who released a movie on Netflix called, I believe it was called The Problem with Apu.
Okay.
Which was, if you watch The Simpsons, Apu from The Simpsons is an Indian character, and he had a bunch of Indian American actors and comedians and whatever talking about how hurtful this character was for their culture and whatever, right? Yeah. And like, I see the fucking Mexican bee guy, and I don't care. I just don't care. Hispanic people, we have real problems, and I think it comes from and I'm not saying that Indian people don't have real problems. If you go to fucking Mumbai, I'm sure they, you know, the kids that are living in some. I saw Slumdog Millionaire. I know it seems rough, okay, but I'm talking about the Indian kids that I grew up with in America. Okay, the Hari Kondabalus of the world. Yeah. Dougie, their parents were well-to-do. These are, you know, these are a class of people that do very well, that are educated, that do very. And look, it's hard work. It's not nothing's gifted to them. Okay, but the reality is, I don't know how it is in Australia, but every Indian American kid that I knew growing up was doing pretty good, and he was on his way to becoming a fucking doctor. Okay, that's what you want to say. Am I generalizing? Sure, but it's just a fucking fact. Okay, and I think that the Hispanic kids that I grew up with, we're dealing with real shit, real problems, abuse, being poor, being on welfare, growing I can't look past, you know, my mom being a heroin addict and on food stamps. I'll never get down the list of problems to the fucking Mexican bee guy. Yep. It'll never get there.
They don't connect.
There's so many other things before I get to Mexican bee guy, and I think it's such an elitist, privileged attitude to be offended by a cartoon. I think it's like, if your world is that you can be offended by this cartoon, like God bless you, dude, because you have no real fucking problems.
Well, even in Australia, what I find is that your stereotypical, you know, white male, or just, you know, Caucasian Australians, they're sort of feeling like they're left out now. So they're trying to find things to complain about and feel like they're marginalized. And
of course. And it creates this, you're creating almost like a right wing, like guys who are being called Nazis and fucking, it's happening all over the place. Yeah. And it's not even, these guys they're not Nazis, except until you call them Nazis enough, and then they get together in a group with other guys who you're labeling Nazis, and then they all look around and go like, well, wait a minute, you're a Nazi and I'm a Nazi? We're not that bad, we're just hanging out.
Oh, well, we'll call it.
Who gives a shit? We're Nazis. Now you've created Nazis, you psychopaths. Yeah. Like, it's like, and they're just dirty white guys. Yeah. They're guys who can't make eye contact. Yeah. They're guys who, you know, would be into video games if it wasn't into this thing. And, you know, everybody wants to fit into something. And I feel like
it's a little tribe.
White guys in particular, I talk about this in my act, but I feel bad for them because I'm watching them being pushed into this corner where, you know, you would be defensive. If I was being told that I'm evil every single day, every day, eventually I'm going to strike back. Eventually I'm going to feel like I'm backed into a corner. I'm like, fine, I'm evil. Yeah. Let's go. Cool. I'm fucking evil. I'll show you evil. Yeah. And that's a real thing. Anybody in the world can understand that. Man, woman, black, white, whatever it is. You can understand that. And I think that that's where you see these young, you know, a group like the Proud Boys, or you see these, you know, younger groups of like, you know, white right-wing dudes. A lot of, you know, you see it popping up all over the place. And it's just, these guys want to fit into something, and it's like they're not really welcome. It's like remember the scene in Forrest Gump where it's like every seat he tried to go to, it's like seats taken. Yes. That's what's happened to white guys right now, is seats taken, and then they're fucking retarded and they want to run, and that's it. They're gonna start running, and we should have fucking let them sit at our seat. That's the truth.
Yeah, and oh fuck, I mean,
that analogy was going somewhere good until it fell off.
No, you held on to it. It was good.
I don't know,
but I mean, I get to a point where I'm not even feeling like no one's pointing fingers at me, but you sort of start to get hypersensitive about things and go, oh, should I have said that or should I have done that? And I think going back to what you said before about just not even paying attention to all this noise that's out there, politics and all this sort of shit in the media and whatever. As soon as you disconnect from it, then that's when the stress levels go. You know, you stop overthinking things and you can just act normally instead of feeding into whatever that stereotype that's being created out there. And that's the hard thing. So, you know, it's we went pretty heavy then.
Hell yeah, doggy. Why not?
Well, to change it up a bit, I've got a mate of mine, shout out to Kurt back home. He's a massive fan. And I said, look, give me some things to talk to Lewis about.
I like it. What up, Kurt? How you doing, baby boy?
Ellis Mania.
Hell yeah. Ellis Mania was a radio, or Jason Ellis is a radio DJ and personality, former pro skateboarder and former pro MMA fighter. He had a couple MMA fights. Australian guy. He built his fucking bones in the States. Yeah. And I like Jason, and he does this event every year called Ellis Mania. And last year was the 15th event. And I'm a huge mixed martial arts fan. I don't watch sports. I don't give a fuck about sports. I think guys who watch sports are a little strange. You know, if you're cheering for another dude playing with balls, like they're men playing a game designed for children. And you're cheering for him.
And you think you're in the team.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's all crazy behavior. I watch it. I cannot imagine, like, if space aliens came down and were watching a fucking football game and watching all the guys cheering for the other men, they'd be like, all right, let's just incinerate that. This isn't right. There's no point of this. We don't get it. Yep. Okay? Huge industry. But I'm not a sports guy. Big MMA guy. I do another podcast with Michael Bisping, former UFC middleweight champion. You know, but I've always been very into the sport, and I've always, in a weird way, I think similarly to how people are fans of stand-up comedy, I've always wanted to challenge myself, you know, and I think a lot of people want to do stand-up comedy, and they always have this little secret thing where they and I always just kind of wanted to train a little bit, and I never did, really. I mean, I've gotten into boxing classes here and there, a couple jiu-jitsu classes here and there, but nothing extensive. So yeah, I always wanted to train, and I always kind of wanted to challenge myself, and I think most people can connect with that. Like, not only get into a fight, a lot of people have been into a fight, but really, I'm talking about, like, you know, put in a 3-month training camp, you know, get in shape, train, do jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling, put the diet in, you know, actually get a coach, put together a legitimate training camp, and get my body and mind to the absolute best it could be for this fight, and then go in and fight another dude who's done the same, and come down, meet on a certain day, and there's something really, for me, I thought is really cool. Yeah. Whatever it is, you know, I'm not a pro. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm a fucking badass. I thought there was something really cool about that. And people always sort of associate me with MMA. They think I've trained, and they think I'm, like, tougher than I am. Just because I look the part. I'm a bald head, big Puerto Rican guy. I'm also, like, I just talk shit. I curse. Like, if a guy talks shit to me, my friends, I'm willing to say something back to him. So that is, in the world of comedy where it's a lot of pussies, I think. It's the same thing with music. There are a lot of pussies in music, you know? I grew up playing music, so I know, like, nobody's willing to fucking just punch somebody in the face. So when you see, like, Sebastian Bach jump off the stage and kick a dude and fucking throw a bottle into the crowd, it was so badass back in the day. Like, sorry, a very dated reference, 1989 Sebastian Bach reference.
You should hear our music. That's dated, man. 80s metal.
Hell yeah, it's my shit. I grew up on 80s metal. Cool. First 2 concerts ever were Poison concerts.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to do that, and people think of me as that guy, but I had never trained before. So there was another gentleman out in L.A. who, this guy actually had trained. He was a Taekwondo black belt, but from when he was a kid. He got his black belt when he was a teenager. And similar guy, big MMA fan out in L.A., named Ryan O'Neal, very funny comedian. And through just a series of dumb Twitter exchanges, we ended up agreeing to fight each other at this event. It was sort of egged on by a couple of our buddies who are comedians, Ari Shafir, Sam Tripoli, and we just agreed. We didn't know each other. We had never met. We just started talking shit, and we agreed to meet. And it was crazy. The whole experience is kind of crazy because the first time I met him, we go on to Jason Ellis' show, and this is all online, and they do like a punch pad to see how strong you punch.
Yeah.
Now, like, I've never trained before. Like, I can just punch it, you know, and so I hit it, and my wrist, like, goes limp, and you know, and it's just, I register like a really low rate. They're all laughing in my face. And then this guy, Ryan O'Neal, comes and you can tell he's just done fucking striking on pads his whole life. So he's like, yeah, he karate hits it and fucking he registers like a really high thing.
Did you just realize, oh, fuck, I've...
That's in that moment it sort of got in my head. I was like, fuck, dude. Well, at that point, I started going like, all right, well, now I got to fucking train my dick off. Okay. I'm going to, because I don't, like in my mind before that, I was like, I have the strength advantage at least. Like I'm like tougher, like I'm from the streets, you know, like in my mind, I'm working myself up. Like I don't, but the reality is this, when it's all said and done, the smoke clears. I look back in retrospect, neither of us had any idea what we're getting into. We're not professional athletes. We're not professional fighters. There's no tape on the other one. There's no way to really know who can beat who. You could talk all the shit in the world. Okay, these professional mixed martial artists, they have an idea and they don't even know. It's any given Sunday. Okay, like these guys are very, very high level and they have camps and they have, you know, coaches and they have people that are watching tape and they can watch a dozen, you know, fights and they can analyze technique. Then it'll all go out the window. But they have at least some data that they can look at. When you're just two dudes like us, there's no data. So we can talk all the shit in the fucking world. You don't know. You have no idea until you actually get in there and fight. So this is sort of, you know, that became like a reality for me. But it stopped becoming about fighting a guy. And it sort of started becoming about setting a goal and hitting that goal. And I started to disconnect from the fighting side of it and being afraid of being punched in the face. I was sparring a lot. So once you spar, you're sparred, but you get punched in the face, you know, 100 times, you're just not really afraid of being punched in the face anymore. It's not fun. It just doesn't suck as bad as it sucked the first time. You don't have the same type of fear. In the beginning, you're like spending so much energy because you're herky-jerky. You're like, oh shit, this guy's coming at me. Every muscle fiber in your body is firing off. And that first time you spar, you get tired in like a minute. You're just spent, dude.
Yeah.
You have no idea what you're in for. But after a while, you get relaxed. And, you know, if you're on a relaxed, you know, you're going to expend that much less energy. You have that much more cardio. You start to learn about you start to learn about yourself. And that's what it started becoming about. It became about, like, I got a kid. I wanted to be able to show him this tape one day and show him, like, me setting a goal, getting in shape, you know, hitting this goal. And I started to really psych myself up. Like I started looking at this guy as being like this person who's standing in the way of like a goal. Yeah. And then that goal is a part of a much bigger goal. And then I started like really working myself. Like, oh dude, he's trying to fucking kill my kid.
Did you have like 80s montage in the back of your head all the time?
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I listen to a lot of music. You motivate yourself. You know, it's just, I've gotten in shape and gotten out of shape. You know, it's just sort of a microcosm of life, and just a, you know, I have a lot of sales experience, and I just really believe if you set a goal, we're designed to hit those goals. You know, there's a path. Anything, and I really mean this. Anything you want to do, I really mean it. Like, there's a goal there, right? Whatever it is. And there's a path. It's a series of decisions. It's a series of left turns and right turns. And you get there. And to be honest with you, there's probably 100,000 paths to get there, you know, and then it can go off into a million different areas. It's infinite, you know, you talk about GaS theory and the butterfly effect and all that other shit, right? That's sort of what, you know, it all kind of plays into this. But I believe that path is there. And certain people can just see it and go, oh, cool, the path is there. Well, now I just got to figure out the lefts and rights. I get excited by it. Other people go, well, there's an infinite amount of lefts and rights. How could I ever possibly get there? I just have the attitude of like, it's a goal and I could hit it. And then I started to disconnect from punching and kicking, and it started becoming like, okay, well, physically, I need to overtake this guy, and I need to come up with a game plan to do that. And it was much less about being tough and being a good fighter, and it was much more about putting together an actual game plan and setting a goal and achieving the goal. And yeah, I ended up winning the fight. Unanimous decision, 3 3-minute rounds, went the whole time. Pretty decisively, outstruck him in the second 2 rounds, you know, got them out in the first round. And it was a cool experience. It was a really amazing experience. I have a lot of respect for mixed martial artists for what they put their bodies through. You are getting healthier, but what you have to understand, it's like, you know, the amount of injuries that I got, and I'm not a pro. These guys are, you know, they're competing and they're training with the best of the best in the world, and these guys are, you know, they're using their bodies as weapons to do damage and inflict damage on the other person's body. And what that does to your body over time, it's a lot. My shoulder To this day, still not right.
Yep.
I subluxed my shoulder 6 weeks before the fight, completely popped out, did not think I was going to be able to fight. I went and saw Freddie Roach's physical therapist.
Yep.
And, he did a bunch of magic on me, and I was able to fight. My hand was broken 2 weeks before the fight, completely broken. I'm talking about, like, wrapped my hands backstage, like, in physical pain, throbbing. Bisping was like, mate, just stop fucking bitching about your hand. You're not going to feel it. You're going to go out there, adrenaline's going to kick in. And that was it.
And
I
worry
didn't.
about it afterwards.
I didn't even think about my hand. Nothing. My rib, to this day, still poking out, like, in a weird angle. Both my ribs popped on both sides when I was doing jiu-jitsu.
Fuck that.
So what you do your body for nothing. I mean, I got paid almost, that's not true. I got paid good money because I hustled and I got sponsors.
Yep.
I went out and I got, a bunch of sponsors, Smoked Honey, Bet DSI. I went and got odds put on Bet DSI, and I took advantage of people betting on it. I mean, it was the whole thing. But I look at the opportunity, it was inconsequential whether the fight was good. I shouldn't say inconsequential. I was doing the fight and that personal goal was there. And then there was the other side of it where I can step back as a producer and go, okay, there's an opportunity to make some fucking cash. There's an opportunity to, get more fans and to turn this into something bigger and better. And they did 3 or 4 times more downloads than they've ever done on their pay-per-views for Ellis Mania. And it's 2, relatively unknown comedians. I'm not like a famous comic. I got a little bit of a hardcore, following, but it's not like these massive numbers where, it should have done something, crazy. And it was just because I think we put a lot of effort and energy into building the hype and doing something really, really fun with it.
And obviously having, as you said, you've got that sales experience, but that business experience, being able to look at the bigger picture and see where those opportunities are. I mean, even with this, and I was talking to Bobby before, just trying to get an understanding of how long you guys have been here. And I know previously over at, I think it was Ralph's apartment.
Yeah, it's apartment,
as well. I mean, you guys have obviously come in with a bit of experience to be able to launch this and grow this to what it is already, and obviously it's continuing to grow. I mean, where did that business experience and that sales experience come from?
I mean, I've always I've sort of always had a business sense. I was the kid on my block who had a lemonade stand and an iced tea stand in the summertime. I was shoveling driveways in the wintertime and raking leaves in the fall. Like I was, I grew up really poor, and I grew up very aware that I was poor and that I didn't want to be poor. I was very embarrassed of being on welfare and being on food stamps. Food stamps were these bright colored, it looked like Monopoly money that you would only use for food, and they would give them to poor people, And my mom would go to the supermarket, and it was just something, and I'd walk away from the line as she would pay for the food because it was very embarrassing to me. And I just always, since I was a little kid, I just sort of had this sense of, wanting to make money for myself. I had an entrepreneurial type of, spirit. I got a book, I forget the name of this fucking book, but it was like, just how to make money as a kid, and it gave you like 30 or 40 different ideas with different things you could be doing to make money. And it went into like, everything from like, organizing your own swap meet where people had to pay you like 10 cents to put their stuff into the swap meet, like nice. To like, just like they really like, and I just connected with it. It was something like you can just you can quantify your success very easily. It's like if it's a game, you look at it as like points, and I just kind of always, I liked that. I liked being able to buy my own things. I just didn't have a lot. So I think, I got my first job when I was like 10 or 11 years old, sweeping up hair at a hair salon and getting all the girls lunch. And I just always worked. I always had something going on. I always had some sort of like, if it wasn't legitimate, it would be like a scam. It was like stealing sneakers from the models in high school and selling them to the pizzeria guy who had everyone's ear in the neighborhood. It was like fucking like, but it was like, it was always sort of about like this bigger picture and always about making some cash, and I was always looking for like an angle, and I always sort of had that in me. And then I got a job selling comedy club tickets in New York City when I was 19 years old. It's what saved my life. I was down a dangerous path. I was doing a lot of drugs, and I was stealing a lot, and just being a fucking punk ass. Wasn't going down a good path. Hanging out with some kids that weren't doing good stuff. And I got this job promoting for comedy clubs, and It was a simple pitch. You know, you go up to a tourist in Times Square or wherever and be like, hey, what's up? What are you doing this weekend? I'm like, we're here visiting from Alabama. Oh, that's awesome. I work for this comedy club. Have you been to a comedy club yet? I'm like, no, I haven't. Now this is sales 101. I'm already engaged them. They've already answered 3 questions in the first 10 seconds. Now there's this, if you know anything about sales, you want people to answer questions. That's it. Now I'm already involved in a conversation.
I just got this over the last 5 days in New York. So I'm following what you're saying and going, I've had this encounter probably those guys, 10, 15 times since I've been
Before those
here.
guys were a regular thing in Times Square, 2001, I was one of the first people doing that out there in Times Square. There was one company doing it called New Genesis, and they were the guys that were doing it.
Yep.
And then I worked for these guys, and then I just kind of got wind of it. They had an office, but then I found out the guy was the office manager who was more or less a fucking caretaker for the floor.
Okay.
He didn't really have a real office. It was all kind of fake, and they just had this, they got a yes from the comedy club to print their own tickets. So I was like, well, why am I working for these guys? So I started my own company. I basically stole the ideas from these guys. That's the truth. But I could do it better. Yeah. I was like, I just had a better sense of how to do this. So I started my own company that started selling comedy club tickets on the street. But I remember just watching the guy do it. The guy, Renda, who trained me on how to do it. We were in front of Madison Square Garden. He just sold this girl. You know, the package at the time was 8 tickets for $20. You got 8 tickets to bring you and your friends to a comedy club. You had to buy a 2-drink minimum. So it was, now they sell them for like $20 a ticket because kids fucking hustling tourists. Back then it was kind of, you go to colleges. It was a cheap thing to do. And, you know, the pitch was very simple. It was, you know, you'd engage them, you start asking them questions. Cool. You never been to a comedy club? Cool. They have these great comedians who started in New York City. Oh, well, have you seen this show? Great. And at this point, you know their name, where they're from, how long they're in town for, who they're here with, how much, you know, what nights they have free. And I'm collecting this information. This is sales. This is the way it works. If you want to fuck a chick, this is also the way it works. It's everything is sales. I really believe this, right? So ask questions. If you ever want to get laid, just start asking a chick questions at a bar. People love talking about themselves. They don't even realize you're selling them, right? So, and then eventually like, well, I got this deal. It's this great comedy club. If you don't have anything going on, and if you're likable and cool enough and personable enough, and you're out there, you haven't. Half the time people go, I don't even know if I have time to do this, but here, take $20. Who gives a shit? I'll see if I can go to this comedy club. Who cares, right? And that sale, you know, you stop a person, it's belly to belly. It's fucking right there. You just meet a person, okay? It's the toughest sale in the world, okay? I just meet this stranger. You got to connect quick. I got to connect quick. I got to get them to trust me. They got to take money out of their pocket on the street. It's fucking crazy, okay? But that's the basis of every sale in the world. You stop somebody. You greet them. If it's the same thing if you're buying a car. You come out to the showroom. Hey, how are you? Hey, what's up? What are you doing in town? Right? Next thing, you engage them. Step number 2. Well, here, what are you looking for? A family card? You got a family? Oh, cool. And now you're looking for emotional triggers. Oh, well, you need something safe. You know, we have side airbags. Same thing. Oh, you're in town with your family. You're asking them questions. You're finding out you can now better place this product in their life. This is what it is. The next step, you stop them, you engage them, you inform, oh, well, let me tell you about this product. Then you show them, you maybe take them on a test drive, right? You're letting them know about the different comedians that have been there. And then you close them. You say, well, give me the money now. And they say no. And then you bring them around in a closing triangle. And you tell, well, let me tell you why. Give me the rejection. That's fucking the basis of every sale. If you're renting an apartment, if you're getting a gym membership, if you're fucking buying anything in the world, you're buying a house, you stop them, you engage them, you inform them, and then you close them, and you continue. Once you move on to that closing step, that's it. You're just bringing them around and around and around. Whatever. I'm talking a lot. The point I'm making is that's where I learned how to fucking sell, was meeting strangers on the street in New York City and trying to sell them comedy club tickets. And that taught me a lot about, it was the toughest sale ever. And I feel like if I can sell a stranger comedy club tickets, I can probably sell, some amazing products that I really believe in, that I've created, that I have, my passion in. And that's where I sort of shifted over to producing comedy shows, becoming a comedian myself, podcasting, developing my own podcasts, developing my own podcast network, merch company, advertising company, comedy festival. I mean, these are all things that I'm very, very passionate about, and we were sort of organically, built, all from the first time I said to some old lady, hey, do you want to go to a comedy club? And, it all kind of built out from there. So, I don't know. It excites me. The same way that getting on stage telling jokes excites me, it excites me to do a deal. We have an office next door. I'll go over there, and, we have our ad sales side is a very, very big part of the company. And it's exciting. It's exciting to look at the board. It's exciting to have sales guys that work underneath me. I get a kick out of that side of it as well. And anybody that's done sales knows what I'm talking about. There's a very thrilling, rewarding side. You get the instant gratification of like, you know,
it's also that goal thing as well. Like you can see where you're heading and you can sort of work towards it. You've got little steps or tick boxes along the way.
It feels good to hit a goal. It feels good to clean your room. It feels good to accomplish something. You know, every time you finish a task, everyone knows that little that feeling. Now, imagine that at a much larger level. When, you know, we broke ground here and this was just a box, and now I get to walk into my studio every day and go like, holy fuck, like this is incredible. We have, you know, we built something pretty amazing. And, you know, for me, that feeling of accomplishment is sort of that's you know, that is a very big part of, I think, why we've been able to do this. Is sort of putting that goal ahead of everything and then working my way to that goal, you know. And these are easy goals. This is nothing. Like there's much bigger, crazier goals that are happening, and this is just one of the left and right turns along this much bigger path.
Do you think that just having so many different things on the go sort of feeds into your personality? Because for me, like I can't just do one thing. Like I'll have a project and I'll work on it and have that same sort of thing, like a goal, and I'll work towards it. But I've got to have like 5 different things on the go at the same time. Like if I have one, it's just not enough. I've got to have things that I don't know what the word is, like sort of like to stimulate my head. It's right. Like this ADHD sort of thing where you sort of like, you've got to constantly just be moving between things, bouncing off stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have major ADHD. I have like, you know, really, really bad. And I, you know, look, I wish I'd be able to just focus on one thing at a time, but this is why I'm really good with, I'm really great with collaborating with people. I work with people that are very, very talented. I get to have a lot of different things going on. And I get to partner with people that are really passionate as well, that have a little bit more focused goals in those areas. So it's just about knowing yourself and understanding sort of, you know, just understanding they're all just different, like little factors and variables. You can't, you know, I can't change the fact that I have ADHD, you know, but I can use it to my advantage. It's just, you know, it's just a personality trait that I have that's a part of this, you know, much bigger thing. So I try not to let those things be deterrents. You know, I think it's probably good that it's probably good that I work on a lot of different things and have a lot of different things going on.
Well, it's probably an advantage to have it in a way. Like depending on how you look at it, it's probably a real benefit to have compared to somebody else that doesn't have that sort of personality trait where they can only focus on one thing, and anything more than one task would be like overwhelming and they wouldn't be able to do it. Whereas somebody who's got that personality trait is able to sort of shift and move between things without feeling overwhelmed.
I think it's a combination of having ADHD, but also having, I don't even know the term or if there's a word for it, but I have something where I do believe in myself. Like when, you know, if you were to, I have a real belief in my ability to do almost anything. You know, I was talking about before, kind of the path to getting to some goal. You know, it's crazy, but there's a path. There's a series of decisions that I could have made to play in the NBA. I didn't make those decisions. It might be too late now, but maybe not. Not really. If I really, really broke it down. And, you know, is it impossible? Is it impossible to whatever it is, make the decision to get my nutrition this way and to, you know, work with this coach and maybe to have some fucking sort of surgery on my legs?
Stretch your legs out.
I have no idea. But I'm crazy. People think I'm crazy, and most people can't do that. Like my son's mother, she's much more grounded in reality. It's one of the reasons why we couldn't work out was because she is very much one foot in front of the other, needs to see the finish line. If she can't see the finish line right in front of her, she's not going for it. And I think some people, that's a very safe way to live life. You know, and other people, that would drive me absolutely mad. But I don't think it's like everybody that is ADHD, you know, naturally can go and run 5 businesses. I think it's, you know, it's you know, I look at that as, I think a lot of people would maybe get discouraged by something like that. And, you know, I didn't even really realize that I had it. I didn't even believe ADD was a real thing until I was in my 30s. And then I started seeing a doctor, and then I read a book on it, and I was like, oh shit, I've had
self-diagnosed yourself.
Debilitating ADD, like in a really, really bad way, like, you know, for a very, very long time. When you grow up poor, you don't have anybody bringing you to a doctor to say this kid had ADD. I was just a bad kid. In the 90s, you're just a bad kid if you're poor. There was no Ritalin. There was nothing like that, you know. And
it was probably even better. I mean, it's probably even better that you're poor because we weren't just fed drugs just to keep yourself sort of, I don't know,
who knows? Or whatever. I mean, the reality is there's a million different things that could, an infinite amount of things that could have happened. If my dad wasn't murdered, I wouldn't be sitting here right now in this studio doing this incredible thing. People are like, oh, would you, what are the chances? If my dad, when I was 4 years old, wasn't murdered, what are the chances are that my path would have led me here? It wouldn't have. There's no fucking chance. I don't know that I would have ended up being on a better path. I don't know. Like, who knows? No, there's no way to know. Yeah. I sort of have this belief in this philosophy. You just gotta play your cards. You're dealt a hand. You can sit here and bitch and moan about the hand all you want. But you're not going to be able to change those cards. So you can still win the game. I've quoted it before, but there's the movie Rounders, which is a hilarious movie to quote when you're trying to fucking talk about philosophy and life. But, Matt Damon's talking about, the World Series of Poker. And he's like, oh, people say it's just luck. What cards you get in poker? It's like, well, if it was luck, how would it be the same 8 guys at the final table of the World Series of Poker every year? And it's how you play the cards, and I that always connected with me. I was like, oh shit, I love that. And, I got a little 2-7 tattooed on my arm, offsuit, which is the worst hand you can get in poker. Man, I'm not saying that I have the worst. I don't have the worst hand by any means. There are people that have way worse of a hand, but it's really about how you play those cards. And when I watch people, we have a culture, to kind of bring it full circle, what we were talking about in the beginning. We live in a culture of people that really want to shift their cards around, and they want everyone to have the same cards. And it's just, guys, you're never going to win that game. You're not going to just sit there bitching at the table. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just play the fucking game. Act like you have the best hand, and you're going to probably win, guaranteed.
One thing that I keep crapping on about in this podcast with people is, and it's a similar sort of thing, it's like your circles of influence and control. And so you got this inner circle where that's everything within, it's your hand, it's your cards that you've got. But it's going back to that culture thing. Everyone's focused on the outer circle where it's completely out of our control, got no control whatsoever of what's going on politically or socially or whatever it is. But it's like, what can I do today? What can I do right now? And incrementally move towards whatever I want, rather than what society wants or whatever it might be. So it's a similar sort of concept to what you said. It's just, what have I got control over in this situation? How do I react? How do I behave? Really simple stuff that half the time we're overwhelmed and we're thinking about all the stuff that we've got absolutely no control over. Of
course. Well, then once you start to believe in that, then you start to go like, well, I can start any type of business because it doesn't really matter. Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The cards that are dealt in, and then you start to have this real belief in your ability to fucking do anything, and then you start to be crazy like me. But I think that's where it comes from. I deeply believe that you gotta play your cards. I deeply believe that you can get anywhere you want to get. There's no goal that's unattainable. I can't explain to you how much I believe that in my core. Any good salesman believes that. Any good salesman just if you're, every no gets you closer to a yes. If I'm selling you cars, every time I hear the word no, that somebody comes in my office, I know that I'm technically and literally closer to somebody saying yes because I close 1 out of 4 people. So if you believe that, you can go, fuck it. He said no. Cool, buddy. You can walk around with a different sense of confidence, and that projects onto that other next person in front of you. You'll probably close more people. You probably get further along. These are all analogies for like life. You don't have to actually be, a salesperson, but I sort of like believe that, and that was always sort of like what it came from. When I was selling comedy club tickets on the street, I would close 1 out of 4 people that I would stop. Yep. So whereas most people, it was a nightmare. For most people, if anyone listening to this podcast right now, if I said to you right now, I'd give you 4 pieces of paper. You got to go into your local mall, stand in front of it, and then stop strangers and ask them to give you money for these tickets. It's a cringy feeling. The idea, I trained thousands of people doing this job. 1 out of every 300 people could do it for more than a day. It was the turnover was crazy. Nobody could do this fucking job. Okay. But the people that could do it, they understood that concept. They were like, all right, if this guy says no, I'm literally closer to the next guy saying yes. And you get excited.
They got the detachment from it as well. So they're not taking it personally. And it's
nothing
if anything,
personal.
It's empowering them to be able to make that next step.
100%. If I were to put 100 marbles in this cup right here, and I said, there's one white marble and 99 black marbles, and I'll give you $1,000 if you pick out the white marble. You get 100 shots. You're not going to get pissed when you pick out a black marble. Be like, cool,
give me a couple of minutes,
give me another fucking, yeah. I mean, you're excited. Yes, 1 out of 99, 1 out of 90, 1 out of 85. Yeah. Your chances are legitimately, literally closer. And I relate that to everything. Getting laid. If you want to go, bang a hot chick, just ask every hot chick you see if they want to go get a drink. I got to be honest with you. It's just a game of numbers. Somebody's going to say yes eventually. There's a ratio of people that will say yes to you, period.
Well, when I walked back through Times Square and I made the fucking fatal mistake by getting a hotel in Times Square,
why would you do that?
It was the worst. But when I walk back through this afternoon, I'll be looking out for those ticket salesmen, because there's a different appreciation from them, because as a tourist, and
they're annoying.
Oh fuck, they're the worst.
They keep going. Yeah, I appreciate it because I appreciate a good salesman, but it's like they're fucking annoying. They're relentless. You end up buying something for them to get you away from them. It's so disconnected from what stand-up comedy is, and it's why I moved away from doing that type of job and working with clubs that get people in that way. I don't even work the clubs that get people in that way, because now it's turned into people that are being tricked into coming to seeing shows that aren't really there, and it's just a different culture. So but it did teach me a lot about just sales, just in general, and that human to human interaction, and being able to just go from not knowing somebody to being able to having the type of connection with them where they're going to give me cash and buy some piece of paper for me that could very well be worthless.
Well, I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Fuck yeah.
What's coming up? You got a special coming out soon?
Yeah, Louis J. Gomez presents Louis J. Gomez. It's going to be available everywhere in April. It's a stand-up special and an album as well. So if you want to just listen to the audio version, you can listen to the audio version. It's a lot of really dirty jokes, fucked up material, and I think people will like it. And you got a million podcasts that you're involved with. So obviously there's GaS Digital here, the umbrella, but then everything underneath. And we'll do a round 2 in the years to come. Hell yeah, dude. But, check out the other pods. Legion of Skanks, Believe You Me, Real Ass Podcast. And that's that, man. That's cool, man. Thank you so much. You're the best. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right, now go and get Lewis's special. Louis J. Gomez presents LouisJGomez.com is the URL. The same name. Go and search for it through Apple TV, Apple iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, GaS Digital Network.com as well. Go and grab the special. It's great. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and make sure you support him. It's his first ever special. He's been doing great stuff, and some of you guys would have heard in recent weeks he was on Rogan for the second time, first time on his own, I believe. So some of you may have been introduced to him recently via the Rogan podcast, and he's been doing Kill Tony and a bunch of other stuff. So I think people are going to hear a lot more from him over the coming months and years, if not already. So I'm just stoked that Louis agreed to be on the podcast, which is so cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and make sure you go and check everything out. I'll have links in the show notes as always. So click through your podcast player, and there's clickable links there, or you can go to andysocial.net, and everything will be in the show notes for this episode, including a few YouTube clips from Louis's new special as well. Wrapping it up, a few updates very quickly. We are, well, at the time of recording this outro, I've been told a few more days to wait before I start making some hard decisions. But hopefully we'll have a release date for the new album very shortly. So who knows? It might be out when you guys are listening to this, might not, but go over to lord.net.au and you'll be able to keep up to date with all the happenings for the new album, Fallen Idols, due out sometime this year. We've got a national tour that's going to be kicking off in the coming months. Can't announce that yet. Well, it'll probably be announced by the time you guys hear this, who knows. Lord.net.au, as always. Go and listen to United, Welcome Back, the single, the first song, track 1 off the album. It's a real ball terror. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on Facebook video, YouTube as well. If you can share it, you can tag some mates, do a bit of social media love, a bit of people power. It means a hell of a lot to me. Also, some call to actions. Anybody that's been leaving reviews anywhere on the internet, it could be Amazon, it could be iTunes, it could be on a message board, it could be on Discogs, it could be on Metal Archives, it could be freaking anywhere that's getting traffic. Please shoot me a screenshot of the review. I am sending out some little thank you packs, which are a bunch of patches and some other
crap lying around the house, just little thank yous to pass on our appreciation for the support. So I want people to go back and leave reviews on everything that we've released, all the Lord back catalogs. So Personal Journey, Ascendant, Set in Stone, Digital Lies, What Tomorrow Brings, Hear No Evil, Return of the Tyrant, The Dungeon Era, Prog Power, live in USA, that fucking live album we did, all that stuff. I'm sure there's the Digital Lies, 12-inch extended mix, the vinyl release that we did, heaps of stuff. Go back and pick one of them. You don't have to own it on CD or vinyl. If you've got the digital download, leave a review somewhere. It just helps us. It gets us back into the conversation. A bit of people power goes a long way. So I'm willing to thank people for leaving reviews. It doesn't have to be a good review, whatever, good, bad, neutral, meh, whatever. Just put reviews out there. We need to be talked about, so it all helps. So I will be sending out things to people. Shoot me screenshots with your mailing address, and I'm going to send stuff out. Also, people that are wearing Lord t-shirts, if you're wearing a Lord t-shirt to any gig anywhere in the world between now and the end of May, shoot me a photo of yourself wearing the t-shirt, tell me where it is, and give me your mailing address, and I'm going to send you out some little patch packs as well, because I just want to support. I want to get our branding out there, and I want to support the people that are supporting us. So once again, people power, it means a hell of a lot to me. So please, if you're feeling compelled and blah, 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 and you're having all these great feelings, do that. Shoot me some details, and I will send you out some little thank yous in the post. Appreciate all the help. I've been getting some cracking reviews from people from all of our back catalogue, and some great photos as well. Make sure you tag us on Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of stuff as well. Fuck, I'm waffling on. Sorry, guys. Also, Self-Starter, still finishing off the recordings for season 2. So any guest recommendations? I've had a couple of people pull out. Funnily enough, I called it. So anyway, if you are keen, or you know someone who might fit into the Self-Starter mold or whatever it is, shoot me a message and I will definitely consider them. Selfstarter.com.au, you can listen to season 1 still through all the podcast players, and season 2 will be out in the first week of June. Anyway, that's enough. Far out. Enough waffling on. I hope you really enjoyed this chat with Lewis. I've got more New York episodes coming over the next few weeks. Just absolutely stoked that this podcast is continuing to grow. I've seen some great progress over the last few months, and just continuing to go upwards. So thank you so much for the support. Keep spreading the word. And enough of that. I've been doing it. Anyway, until next week, folks. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.